Hey there, Cancer Ascendant. This is your weekly Ascendant Forecast, taking you from the 24th of November, that's Monday, right the way through to Sunday, the 30th of November, 2025. Now, this week it has a very sort of different energy to last week. Last week was obviously full-on dynamic with Mercury retrograding back into Scorpio and with that powerful new moon. But this week ahead, we have got a week of releases. This is a beautifully releasing time. We are also energized by the first quarter moon phase. And of course, you're ruled by the moon as a Cancerian ascendant. We've got 2 retrogrades going direct. Massive thumbs up there. And Venus is in a very, very powerful position. She's making some very strong energies in this week ahead. And there's a really lovely sweet spot taking place on Wednesday, the 26th. So let's get cracking. If you're new to this, by the way, this is a Western tropical whole sign forecast. So that's the kind of model I'm using for my astrology. And again, if you're new, I'm Louisa. Welcome to Feel Good Astrology. As ever, I'm going to just start by putting a quick shout out full of gratitude for all the people who support this channel, whether it's historically, regularly, or via my membership on School. I just really appreciate you. So thanks so much. Anyway, these are the 2 charts I've got here. So you'll see with the first one, the sun is just into the sign of Sagittarius. And, the moon's in Capricorn. And then by the end of the week, we've got the sun still in Sagittarius and the moon has moved from Capricorn all the way around to the top of your chart into the sign of Aries. Now, if you watch what's going on here between the start and the end, you'll see that at the start, we've got Venus and Mercury retrograde in the sign of Scorpio. And, we're just coming out of that very intense Scorpio stage. Last week, we had that new moon. Obviously, the moon is your ruler. You had that very powerful new moon in your 5th house in the sign of Scorpio. And, the energy this week is really lightening and brightening up. It's absolutely about the sign of Sagittarius. That we are absolutely in the Sagittarian season now. And of course, we've got Jupiter right now, which is the ruler of Sagittarius in your 1st house in the sign of Cancer. So to me, it really does feel like there's a really strong alignment between the Cancerian energy and the Sagittarian energy at the moment. It just feels, I think, really delightful. So anyway, with all that said, let's get cracking. So these are the most important things that I see coming up in the week ahead. Starting with Mars in a T-square to the North Node and the South Node. You see Mars here in the 6th house in the sign of Sagittarius. And throughout this time, there are releases of energy from Mercury, from Saturn when they come out of their retrogrades, and with Venus moving out of Scorpio and into Sagittarius. So there's a lovely feeling of momentum from the Scorpio energy, which is deep, it's intense, it's pathological, it's psychological, and it's also deeply creative, because for you in your chart, it is absolutely about the moment of creation. And, I know what it's like when you've got a lot of planets going through your 5th house, especially if you've got a very strong water sign energy in your chart, you tend to really go into this very private, personal, deep kind of, it's almost like an itch you can't scratch, this desire to create, and it can be so intense that you almost can't stop creating, and it can be very difficult to know when to stop and when to review and when to step back, and sometimes we can just get so far into it we can't almost see our way out of it. So I really see that as you're going through this week ahead, you're going to come more and more into peace and more into practice, because you're going from this deeply creative, emotional, and expressive place. And, as the movements are heading towards Sagittarius, there's a more practical application where you might start to bring your creations into your day-to-day work. Now, talking about creativity, and of course, Jupiter in the 1st house as well, it would be remiss of me not to mention, that the 5th house is also about pregnancy. It's also about conception. It's also about children, people that you've historically created. And so those vibes are also very, very strong for you right now as a Cancer ascendant. Also, let me just add, if when you're looking at your first house, you see Cancer and also the symbol for Leo in your first house, this is the first house here, then you also need to listen to the Leo forecast because there's going to be some extra relevance there too. Anyway, so back to Mars T-square nodes. So Mars is heading up the Sagittarian delegation right now in the 6th house. And, Mars in Sagittarius wants to kind of crack on, get on with it. He really wants to deal with things. He doesn't want to leave things hanging around. He just wants to head into things. Now, Mars is also quite helpful if you take good care of yourself. He can be quite helpful. He can help you fortify your health, because this place is about your day-to-day, how you manage your money, how you manage your life, how you manage your health, how you manage your fitness. This is about your day-to-day routine, your habits. And so Mars here can be very helpful to, move yourself forwards. And in fact, the sun coming in here can also be helpful. But, if things go into a square here, it can get a little bit sticky. And so Mars is in this square, and the south node is in the 3rd house, really showing that there's something left over, possibly from childhood, possibly from where you grew up, possibly there's something that you're meant to take action on to do with your local community where you live right now, maybe your friendship group. The 3rd house is everything local, everything known, everything seen. And so any tasks that you've got right now that you haven't attended to that really belong to the community, your peers, your siblings, and elements of the past, in particular the known past that help to create your belief systems and help to create your past history, like your childhood, anything from that era that you haven't taken action on, it feels like it's coming up, or it needs to be released and let go of altogether. The North Node is showing what you're meant to be learning right now and where the emphasis is. And with the square from Mars to the North Node, it feels like there's a rush and a frustration to get things done. And, the 9th house is also emphasized because of Saturn and Neptune right now. And so you might find that there's things that you've committed to, like to learning, to sharing, to teaching. There might be a frustrated urge to move and to move forwards and to travel and to experience things from a very different perspective. The 9th house North Node that you've currently got, could be really changing the way you see politics, religion, philosophy, spirituality, all this higher context stuff, which is in direct opposition to what was known as a child and, what you might experience in your local environment. There's this kind of frustrated urge right now with Mars in a square to it, really signifying that you're wanting to experience life very differently to how it has been. And your urge is to go deeper and richer and more expanded. And so what's holding you back actually is the pull back into the community, the pull into everything normal. So that feels like something to really resolve at the beginning of the week. Now, that might actually tie into other things as we go through this, by the way. On Tuesday, the 25th, one of the beautiful things that's going on is this lovely connection between Venus and Mercury in your 5th house. Mercury's retrograde. And so anything to do with the stuff you've been creating, including children, and it's also a little bit of a new relationship house as well, by the way, because, new relationships are created and they kind of come from the sexual organs, like lovemaking and stuff. But anywhere where you have got things undone in that area, it feels like you're uncovering something and relearning something, and you're getting a second chance. To me, this meeting between Mercury retrograde and Venus is really fortuitous. It's really helpful. They're both lined up in a beautiful trine to Saturn and Neptune, and also to Jupiter in your 1st house. So there's this lovely kind of self-expression coming out. And this is really part of it. And then that moves into Wednesday, which is a great day. I really love Wednesday because we've got Venus in an exact trine to Saturn and also in an exact trine to Jupiter. Now, Venus and Jupiter in an exact trine is a real sweet spot. The Venus and Jupiter relationship it's I always think a project of luck and love, a project of success and expansion and expression. And they came together in early summer. I can't remember the exact date, so I'm just going to look it up right now. One sec. Yeah, I just found out. So Jupiter and Venus, they came together on the 12th of August this year, creating a whole new cycle of success. And each time they make an aspect to each other, it's almost like something new is happening. So whatever you were creating for yourself, because this happened in the sign of Cancer back in mid-August, to me, whatever like has continued since then is really cooking on gas. It feels really, really great. It was quite intense around the 2nd of November when they were in a square together, but now they're in a sextile to each other. Sorry, a trine together on the 26th of November. It just feels so much more exciting. It feels like anywhere where you had a doubt about something you put love and attention into, now those doubts are a thing of the past. That feels really, really great. Anyway, so that's a very, very strong day, the 26th. It's reinforcing everything that you are lovingly creating. And then the 28th, 29th. So we've got Saturn going forwards again. To me, it feels like you can carry on learning whatever it is that you've been frustrated about. And I was talking about Mars, that sort of frustration to expand and to go into nourishment, like spiritual nourishment, and to evolve maybe what you're learning. That is starting to take flight again. It's a feeling of freedom. Even with Saturn moving forwards, it's helping you move beyond the things that were coming up around March 2023, about your expansion and your evolution. Whatever you've been battling with, to me it feels like you're on to the home stretch. And then Mercury going direct on the 29th is really helpful, because it just feels like you're back on track with everything you're creating. You've got it into proper perspective. And of course, that's very liberating. Finally, then, as we come into Sunday, Venus is the star of the show. She is, first of all, I'll move to this chart. She's exactly in an opposition to Uranus. Now, this is interesting because there's an emotional breakthrough. It feels like a relationship turning point. And given that she rules Taurus and he's currently in Taurus, to me, I think there's a breakthrough about financial security. And possibly financial security that's coming from your creative nature. So that to me feels really, really strong. At the same time, she's making an exact trine to Neptune in your ninth house. From the fifth house to the ninth house. This is all about your self-expression, your creative urge, your desire to almost come into oneness, I think, is a real possibility. And then finally, she shifts from the sign of Scorpio into the sign of Sagittarius. And so these movements, I think, are pacing you out of this very deep, intense, introverted, slightly sort of hidden time where you're kind of protecting the things you're creating, and into a time where you're ready to work on things. You can see how to work on them, and you're really raring to go. So I think things are moving in quite a helpful direction for you in this week ahead, Cancer. So if you've enjoyed that and you found that useful, my take on the planets and how they're working with you, you might find it helpful to journey with me in a variety of different ways. I've got a membership with forecasts where I go even deeper on a daily and weekly basis. I've also got teaching where I am teaching astrology from scratch, and also there are drop-in classes. And for next year, I'm also opening up 10 spots for a private mentorship. It's a year-long mentorship on a month-by-month basis where you're learning about your birth chart and also about what's coming up at the same time, where we're looking at your chart, your rhythms, your healing, and really, really exploring everything about you from a perspective you might not have gone to before. So it's quite a luxury, but if that's of interest, then just get in touch. All of my details are in the show notes and also on my channel page. So anyway, have a wonderful week ahead and hopefully catch up with you next time. Lots of love, Cancer. Bye for now.